Phoenix has been blessed with an exceptional teacher who has dedicated his life to teaching and sharing the Rebbe's teachings. He's doing so through the JLI, Jewish Learning Institute chapter here in Phoenix. He's recently been doing it on YouTube, if any of you checked his videos. He is the director of Chabad of Anthem, and he's here today to share with us just a snippet, and I hope you'll decide to continue learning with him and others. But he's here today to share with us a snippet of the Rebbe's teachings. Please welcome Rabbi Yossi Friedman, director of Chabad of Arizona.
Thank you. A girl, Miriam bat Bilga. Miriam, the daughter of Bilga. The Talmud at the very end of Sukkah concludes with the tractate of Sukkah concludes with this story. Miriam bat Bilga was from the priestly family. She was from the Kohens, and she was a girl. It was during the times of Hanukkah, during the Greeks, when, unfortunately, with the oppression, with the Hellenization of a lot of Jews, this girl converted out. She converted out, and she met and she married one of the Greek soldiers, one of the officers of the Greek king. When the Greeks entered the Holy Temple in Jerusalem to defile it, she joined along. She went along, and when she came in, she took her sandal and she hit the altar and she said, "Lukos, lukos, wolf, wolf." Lukos is wolf in Greek. "Wolf, wolf, how long are you going to consume the money of the Jews and not answer them in their times of oppression?" Because of this sacrilegious thing that she just did, her family was penalized. She was again a Kohen, so the family, the house of Bilga, they did, number one, is they closed their ring. In the temple, they had the rings that they would use when they would slaughter an animal to close the neck around the animal to be able to slaughter it. So it would open, it would close. Hers, that of her family, they didn't allow it to be closed anymore. They make it inoperable. And the second thing is that every family in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple, had a window, had a cabinet where they would store the knives that they would use. And their window of the house of Bilga was locked. So basically, what they had to do is they wanted a knife, they had to use somebody else's window. If they wanted to slaughter an animal, they had to use somebody else's ring. And of course, that was an embarrassing thing. That was how they punished this family for what this girl did. The Rebbe, this was in 1974. It was on the Yartzeit of his mother, on Vav Tishrei, which is right in the middle of the 10 days of repentance. And the Rebbe shared this story. And he said, it's right now during the 10 days of repentance. It's a time that we try to find something positive, something good about everybody. What can we find positive about this story? What can we find positive about this Miriam bat Bilga? What positive thing could we, what limud schus in Hebrew, what merit could we find? So first of all, as an introduction, the Rebbe was somebody who loved learning. One of the greatest gifts you could give to the Rebbe, the Rebbe would ask for birthday presents. So it wasn't, you couldn't go to the store and buy something. The best gift you could give the Rebbe was make a commitment to learn. There's this Rabbi Weiss in California, they say, that he once made a business deal. He's a businessman. He made a business deal with the Rebbe. So he said, what he's gonna give to the deal, what the Rebbe's gonna give to the deal. The Rebbe says, in a deal, it's a partnership. I need something from you in return. So he says, well, I'll give you whatever you want, $1 million, $2 million, whatever you want, I'll give you. So the Rebbe says, I want 1,000 pages of Talmud. You like 1,000 pages of Talmud. But that was the Rebbe. the Rebbe loved learning, and you hear it in the Rebbe's talks. You go to a Farbrengen, you hear a Farbrengen. Today, fortunately, we can hear recordings of it, you can watch videos. And there's different talks that the Rebbe would, the Rebbe was very vocal about Israel, a lot of issues in Israel. There would be a Hasidic discourse a lot of times. One of the things that Rebbe would do is conclude a tractate, as we're going to do here tonight. Conclude a tractate. And when you're younger, as a kid, listening to Rebbe's talks, it was not too easy to follow those Talmudic discourses. But as we were getting older, me and my friends, when the Rebbe would say that now he's going to say a hadran, which it's called, he's going to finish a tractate, you tune in more, because you know that you're in for a ride. You know that there's something exciting going to come out of this. And the Rebbe would be so frustrated when you would hear that people, all they talked about, with the whole Farbrengen, hours that the Rebbe was talking, and all they talked about was the politics that the Rebbe spoke about, or the issues. So I spoke so much Torah, so much Hasidus, and all you could remember, it would frustrate the Rebbe so much. The Rebbe was somebody who loved learning. So what we're going to do today, this morning, is we're going to learn one thing, again, like we said, from 1974, and how the Rebbe learned this little piece from the tractate of Sukkah. This one, the Rebbe only asked one question, and commonly the Rebbe could ask 10, 15, 20 questions on any given subject. Here the Rebbe will ask one question: what is the Limud Zchus? What could we learn from this girl, Miriam Bas? What could we find merit in what she did? So the first thing the Rebbe says is the Talmud concludes, wrong way. The Talmud concludes, if you notice towards the bottom, that from Miss Miriam Bas Bilga they ask, why do you punish the whole family? And they say, because, it's about 5 lines to the bottom, woe to the wicked, woe to his neighbor. And from there we learn, good to the, how do you put it here, well is to the righteous, and well is to his neighbor. So we learn something positive out of this story. Just like her family was punished because of her misdeeds, therefore the whole family was punished because woe to a wicked person, woe to his neighbor. The same thing, we learned out something good, which is it's good for righteous and it's good for the neighbor. So that's the first thing. Learning something positive from what she said, from what she did. But the Rebbe takes it further. And that is like this. First of all, one thing about this question that the Rebbe asks, what merit can we learn? I want to point out one more thing, and that is one of the beautiful things of learning the Rebbe's Torah, learning the Rebbe's talks, and studying the Rebbe's work, is how the Rebbe took everything simply. The Rebbe had the faith of a child. It's almost, we can't fathom how such a brilliant person could have such simple faith. And you see it everywhere. The question that we're going to ask here now is, if the Rebbe asks, why does it say her name? Why does it say her name? You're saying a story about somebody which is not positive. Why are you saying its name? Her name. Especially that the Torah says, right? You look at a different tractate in the Talmud, it's about that the Torah does not mention the term impure animals by Noah, by the flood. It says the animals that are pure and the animals that are not pure. Why? Because the Torah doesn't want to say anything negative. And here, the Torah says not only something negative, says her name. Another example is, the Torah doesn't say which fruit Adam ate. Why? So we shouldn't be pointing, oh, this fruit, this is the one that, a fruit the Torah doesn't want to embarrass. And here a whole family, mentioning them by name. So you see, when the Rebbe sees something like this, that the Torah doesn't mention somebody's name, you can find it many times. But each time the Rebbe is going to ask, wait a minute, that doesn't work. You said that you don't do this. The Rebbe took it so simply. And you'll see at the end as well, how the Rebbe takes the simple words of something and gives us a whole new way of looking at it. That's one of the most fascinating things of learning the Rebbe's Torah is, you learn a whole thing, you understand it in a certain way, and the Rebbe says, let's read it again. Let's translate the words. This word means this word, and all of a sudden you have an answer to all the questions that you had before with a whole new insight. That's the fascinating, one of the fascinating things about learning the Rebbe's Torah. So here he goes. The Rebbe says like this. We find in Leviticus 24:11. There's a story about this man who cursed. He blasphemed. And the Torah there mentions his mother's name. Shlomis, Bas Divri. It mentions her mother's name. Rashi says, why does it mention her name? This is quoted from Rashi. It says, why is her name mentioned? To teach us that she was the only one who this happened to. Because it was basically a son from a Egyptian man with her. So she was this only one that had this illicit relationship. So what does that mean? The Torah says who it is to teach us that it didn't happen to anybody else. So it's the praise of the rest of the Jews. That nobody else, in the horrible times that we were having in Egypt, nobody else fell as low as this lady. So the Rebbe takes that same lesson with Miriam Bas Bilga. Why does the Talmud say her name? To tell us she was the only one. Now, if you know anything about the history of how it worked there in the times of the Hashmonaim, in the times of the Greeks, in the times of Hanukkah, it was terrible. The Jewish condition, the oppression was horrible. And who suffered the most? It was the women, it was the girls. It was the girls that suffered the most. One of the things that they had then is that before the night of getting married, every girl, on the night that she got married, had to go to the governor, the Greek governor at that time. The girls suffered the most. That's actually why the mitzvah of lighting the Hanukkah menorah is equally obligatory for women as it is for men. Because they were just as part of the miracle as the men were, if not more. And with all of that, the Talmud says there was only one girl who fell that low to take her sandal and speak so horribly about the altar. So that's another good thing we can find out of this story. A positive twist to it. So number one, we learned it's good for a tzaddik, it's good for the righteous, and it's good for their neighbor. And number two is, it singles her out to teach us that nobody else did what she did. So it's praise to the rest of the Jews. Then the Rebbe says a third thing. And this is taken from Maimonides. This is a letter that was sent to the Jews of Yemen, of Taiman. They were suffering terribly then. There was actually a three-pronged problem. Number one is there was a Muslim ruler that took over and was forcing Jews to convert. Number two is a Jewish apostate who turned Muslim was convincing Jews that in the Torah it says that you got to convert out. So they had it from this governor, they had it from this Jew. And then the third problem is that there was a false Messiah that showed up, saying that he's going to take all the Jews out and bring them all to Jerusalem, and Mashiach is coming. And Maimonides addressed all three of these things. But one of the things that he addressed there was like this. There was this rabbi that was saying, if you convert out, if somebody becomes a Muslim, so then their whole Torah, their whole mitzvot is worthless. That's it. They're not Jewish. It's all worthless. And what Maimonides is writing here is that that's not true. First of all, he disagrees if Muslim is even idol worship, which is a whole different issue. But the second thing he says is that no matter how far a Jew falls, what they do is very important. Let's check it out on the... I think so. Here it goes. For Yerovam, the son of Nevat, Jeroboam was somebody who the Mishnah says he was the most wicked man that ever lived. He was somebody who sinned, and he caused others to sin. It says that about as bad as he get. What does it say? Was chastised not only for the sin of worshiping the calves and inciting Israel to do the same, but he was also for his failure to conduct Eruv Tafshilin. Now let me take a moment to explain to you what Eruv Tafshilin is. Eruv Tafshilin is that if a holiday falls out on a Friday and you need food for Shabbat, so you're not supposed to cook from one day holiday to the next. Even though you got to cook for that day itself, you're not supposed to cook from Friday to Shabbat. But you need food for Shabbat, so what are you going to do? So the rabbis, they prohibited cooking from one day to the next. But if it falls out on a Friday, they said, this is what you do. You prepare some food before the holiday, which usually would be in outside of Israel, would be on Wednesday, because it would be usually a 2-day holiday. So you got Thursday, Friday. On Wednesday, you prepare food. You set that food aside for Shabbat. And then as long as that food is available, you can cook whatever you want on Friday for Shabbat. We call that in Hebrew, Eruv Tafshilin. It's a complete rabbinic enactment. You're not going to find it anywhere in the Bible, anywhere in the 5 books of Moses. This was an enactment done by, it's called what we call a rabbinic law. It's a rabbinic decree. And what Maimonides says here is like this. Yeravam ben Nevat is somebody that was the most wicked person that ever lived, bowed down to golden calves, and he's going to be chastised for not doing a rabbinic enactment called Eruv Tafshilin. And the Rebbe poses a very simple question. Number one, either way, if it's news, if this is something, that this is a chidush, if this is a novelty, he comes up with a new idea, then where did he get it from? But on the other hand, it doesn't seem like any news at all. Isn't it obvious that 2 wrongs don't make a right? Isn't it obvious that if you do one thing wrong, you're not supposed to do something else wrong? So what is the big deal here? What's he bringing to the table? What's the news? So the Rebbe explains like this. Why does God punish? Why does God punish? God punishes because he loves us. A good example of this, to understand this, is a parent seeing 2 kids. They throw a ball, it goes through the neighbor's window, right? So the parent calls over one of the kids, sends him home. And the other one starts screaming at him, starts punishing him, grounds him, whatever he does. So you would think, which one does the parent love more? It's the one that he sent home, right? The one they didn't punish. Well, actually, no, that's not his kid. He punishes his own kid. You don't punish somebody else's kid. You punish your own kid. Why? Because you love your kid, and therefore you want to fix the wrong, you want to educate that kid. Punishment is actually not a sign of hate. Punishment, generally speaking, if it comes from the right place, it's actually a sign of love. That's why when God says he punishes us for when we do something wrong, what it really means is that God cares about us. Because if God didn't care, then he wouldn't punish us. When you don't care about somebody, it's almost like in a relationship. If you don't care whatever your spouse does, then you probably don't love them. The fact that they can do something and hurt you is a sign that you love them, because you're in a relationship with them. When God gets hurt because we don't follow what he wants us to do, it's because he wants that relationship. He loves us, and therefore he gets hurt. And this is what Maimonides is saying. The most wicked person, Yeravam ben Nevat, put on the top 10 list of the most wicked people that ever lived. God is so deeply in love with this person that he cares about the most minor transgression that he's going to do, no matter how far he fell. The fact that Hashem is going to punish him for not doing the Eruv Tafshilin shows how much God loves the most wicked person. Where did he get it from? Where did Maimonides pick this idea up from? Well, you know where he picked it up from? From our story. Let's go through our story. Miriam Bas Bilga, what did she do? She converted out. She married the enemy. She married a Greek soldier, an enemy of the Jews. And all of that is ignored. Why is she punished? Because she took off a sandal and hit the altar. I mean, how could you compare taking a sandal and hitting an altar to converting out of her tradition, of her religion? And yet, what is her family punished for? The minor infraction of hitting the altar. And what that shows is that God cares. No matter how far this girl fell, Hashem still cares, God still cares if she takes her sandal and hits that altar. So the lesson to us is how much God cares about every single one of us. That no matter how far we fall, God still cares about how we act and the little things that we do in life. That's the third thing that we can learn as a merit to this girl, Miriam bat Bilga. And then the fourth thing. When the Rebbe said this fourth idea, the Rebbe actually broke down. You can hear it it's a weekday for Farbrengen, so you can actually hear it on tape. And the Rebbe says, look at a Jewish girl. This Jewish girl, she felt so far, converted out, married this Greek, hit the altar, entered the temple impure. She probably did not go to the mikveh before she went into the holy temple. She went into the temple impure. And when she sees the altar, what does she say? She says, wolf, wolf, lukos, lukos, how long are you going to consume Israel's money and not answer them in their time of need? She fell so far, and what bothers her when she walks into the temple is that God is not answering his people when they're in a time of need. Could you understand the awesomeness of this Jewish girl who fell so far? And what does she cry about? She cries that God is not answering his people. And the Rebbe breaks down when the Rebbe was saying this. So you see again, as we said, the Rebbe just takes the words, literally, translates them, and says, look what she said. We're punishing the family. Look what she said. This is amazing. And this is the lesson, the fourth lesson that the Rebbe learns as a limud zchus, as a merit to this girl, Miriam bas Bilga, how far she fell, yet she cared so much about the Jewish people. The lesson, the Rebbe would always bring a lesson. Always bring a lesson. And almost any time the Rebbe would speak, so Torah is Torah's Chaim, it's a lesson for life. What's the lesson? The lesson is that we meet people. And we meet people that might be very far away. They might be people that are very far removed from their Judaism, from being Jewish. And now we have an option. Because we associate with them, now we're neighbors. So it can go two ways. Either it can go, woe to the wicked, woe to their neighbor, and then that person has an influence on us. But the Rebbe says it's not what we should do. We should learn from the story and turn it around and say, well is to the righteous, well is to his neighbor. When you act the way you should Jewishly, when we up our Jewish game, when we have a proper relationship with Hashem, then what happens? The neighbors that we meet are affected as well. Because Miriam bas Bilga teaches us that good to a tzaddik is good to the neighbor. I just want to conclude. There's an after part to this story, so I'll just finish it off. Just a few weeks later on Simchas Torah, on the holiday, the Rebbe had also Farbrengen, and the Rebbe said that he got, people were asking, how could you find something good about this girl? She's such a terrible person. For thousands of years she's in the blacklist, and here you go, how could you do this? And in short, the Rebbe said that once there was this guy who got a spirit of unholiness in him, and he came to the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe then had said how the people who murdered Zechariah Hanavi, who murdered the prophet Zechariah, how they meant well, they're really righteous people, and I'm not going to go into it, I just don't have time. But he went through the whole story, that spirit left that person, and the person was cured. And basically, the Alter Rebbe said it was that these people that had murdered Zechariah came into this guy, and they were looking for a tikkun. They were looking to be able to go up to heaven. They were wandering around for endless time because of the terrible thing that they did. When the Alter Rebbe said that they're righteous people, he elevated those souls. And the Rebbe intimated by saying that is that it seems like the same thing had happened here. That when the Rebbe said this thought about Miriam bas Bilga, he actually elevated her soul as well, that she can also go up to her proper place in heaven. And I'd like to conclude with that idea, because one of the people who was sitting by this Farbrengen walked away, and if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't even a Chabad person. It was somebody who joined the Farbrengen, and he walked away and he was blown away. He says, look at the Rebbe's love. He cares about a girl that lived 2,000 years ago. That's the Rebbe's love. Thank you very, very much.